Well, for more on the story, I have with me in the studio our international affairs commentator, Doug Herbert. So, Doug, the Syrian presidency has called this Israeli strike a dangerous escalation. Help us understand the rationale, if you will, of this attack.
Of the Israeli attack near the presidential palace. This is a question that I think our viewers could rightfully ask themselves. What does Israel have to do with this conflict, with what appears to be a local sectarian clashes within Syria? Why is Israel getting involved? Good question. So, look, begin with Golan, right? The Golan Heights, which Israel occupied in 1967. It annexed it in 1981. The international community doesn't recognize that. But perhaps more importantly is the timeline since the ouster of Bashar al-Assad in Syria last December. Since then, Israel appears, it hasn't really confirmed it, but appears to have seized more land in the region, but specifically more in Syria. Now, from Benjamin Netanyahu's perspective, the reason that he is claiming to be the great defender, this defender of the Druze community, seizing the mantle of their defense, even though a lot of Druze themselves are saying, no thanks, Israel, we're fine on our own. We actually don't need your intervention in your defense. He's still claiming to be their defender. Two big reasons. Obviously, he sees Syria's new government under a leader whose group was formerly associated and tied to al-Qaeda. He casts them as extremists, an extremist threat. This is a government that he does not like, and he has been very clear. He has called for, this is Netanyahu, has called for what he says is the demilitarization. He wants to see demilitarization of the provinces in which this Druze minority are based, south of the capital, south of Damascus, including Suwaida, along the Suwaida highway. Suwaida is a city as well. Two other provinces as well. And basically what he says is he will not allow, these were his words, Israel will not allow Syria's government forces, that is, government forces under the authority of this new transitional government that Israel casts as an extremist entity, to operate anywhere south of Damascus near Israel. Seize any such presence by forces allied to the new Syrian Syrian government as representing a threat to Israel. So in a nutshell, that is why Israel has been targeting and sending what it called this a clear message to the rulers. Basically, you stay out of this area in the south of Syria, and you let us take up the defense of the Druze. And like I said, the Druze are not a monolithic force who are asking Israel to come in and defend them. Are there some Druze who have no problems with the Israeli intervention? Absolutely. But there's also some Druze religious leaders who actually want to remain within a unified, coherent Syrian nation, want to see the unity of Syria succeed, want to be part of an eventual mosaic of different groups within a unified Syrian state, and don't want Israel to be meddling on the pretext of defending them. They say, we don't need you to defend us. Thank you very much. So when I say it's complicated, it literally is complicated, but it's not obvious on its face that Israel should be intervening on behalf of this minority community, the Druze community in southern Syria.
And the Syrian government, has a lot on its plate at the moment, doesn't it? I mean, the sectarian violence that you just talked about, for one. So the strike is just one of many conflicts that it's dealing with, isn't it? I mean, how is the government responding and reacting to this?
With great difficulty. Look, we hear not a day goes by where some member of the international community, the Syrian representatives, met with the U.S. last week. We hear statements from Europe. They all say the same thing. They want this government to promote unity and inclusion and stability. This is the way, and the government desperately needs the West to be on board, the West to give it, lift sanctions, to give it economic lifeline, because its economic situation is more than precarious right now. The new interim leadership in Damascus is viscerally aware of the fact that it needs the goodwill of the West. It is doing everything it can, or at least says it's doing everything it can, to try to foster that goodwill by showing it's doing everything it can to make sure that these sectarian clashes do not devolve into something far worse. Remember, Syria can be excused, right? It's coming out of 13 years of devastating civil war. The security situation is extremely fragile, to say the least, in the country. They have their hands full. But I will note that there have been the so-called GSS, the Syrian government forces, intervening fighting alongside Druze fighters to try to fend off these attacks on the Druze community. So Damascus would say it's showing goodwill, it's doing everything to hold things together. Some people ask, looking on, but do they really have ultimate control over all of these disparate forces that are right now adrift in their country?
All right, great to hear your thoughts. Thank you very much for that, Doug.